G'day everyone, this is another Footyology Match Dispatch and we are here to talk about North Melbourne's thumping 69-point win over Adelaide this afternoon up at Metricon Stadium on the Gold Coast. Well, no doubt the big story surrounding this game was the return to football of Majak Daw. And Big Maj acquitted himself very well in the finish, kicked a goal which was widely celebrated by everyone in footy, not just his teammates. But it was a day of celebration for all of North Melbourne because after a long run of outs, 6 defeats on the trot, they certainly broke the ice in spectacular fashion against, again, a very disappointing Adelaide. And talk about contrast, they are now 0-9 in season 2020 and have lost a record 12 games in a row, including the last 3 of last season. Let's have a quick look at the scores. And the highest score of any side this season, the Roos kicked today, 19-5, 119, a 7-goal last quarter. Against the Crows, 7-8-50. And this was a victory, really, which was on the cards very early in the piece. The Roos getting out to a good start with the first 4 goals of the game. Shaun Higgins among it pretty early for the Roos, and they were just banging the ball forward early on. No great system about the way they played, but sheer weight of entries conjured some goals for them. Luke Davies-Uniacke, who played a decent game, he bobbed up. Young Jack Marnie bobbed up with one, and Aaron Hall really played himself into some form today, and he kicked a ripper in the first quarter as well. The Crows didn't get on the board as far as goals are concerned until the second term. Lockie Murphy, a nice little dribbler, got there first on the board, and they started to play a little bit better. They kicked a couple more through the agency of Rory Atkins and Shane McAdam, got the gap back to 16 points. Unfortunately, just in the last 5 minutes before half-time, they let it go again big time, and North really seized the initiative here, kicked 3 goals in 4 minutes just before that half-time siren. 2 of them coming to Jasper Pittard, who was playing in attack again as a defensive forward. 2 goal assists to Todd Goldstein, who had an outstanding game, not just with his ruck work, but with his capacity to win plenty of possession and set up scores for others around the ground. He was terrific today. He set up 2 of those 3 goals. Shaun Higgins chipped in with a beautiful snap. That was one of Goldstein's assists. Lovely curling effort from hard up against the boundary line. And a 16-point deficit became for the Crows 31 again at halftime. 34, sorry. And that was going to be a bridge too far. Third quarter, look, the Crows certainly didn't throw in the towel for a while. That was even after early goals in the second half to Jai Simpkin and Cameron Zurhaar, and the gap got out to 46 points. Adelaide did rally in the second half of the third term. Rory Laird, interestingly, was moved out of defence into the middle of the ground. He had a really big quarter with 8 possessions, kicked a lovely check side snap goal. Paul Seedsman never stopped running for the Crows, and he tried pretty valiantly to lift them. But same story for Adelaide as it's been much of the year. Undermanned. They were hamstrung further in that regard with Tex Walker being a last-minute withdrawal with a stomach bug, and simply didn't have the personnel up forward. Some very raw key forwards, including the likes of Elliot Himmelberg, just too much left in their laps. Fourth quarter, what was going to happen? Well, you could see the writing on the wall pretty early. The Crows just couldn't withstand any further North assaults. And the most emotional moment of the game, no doubt, Sean Atley setting up Big Majak Daw for a mark within scoring range. He duly converted and was absolutely swamped by teammates. Really emotional scenes, and I'm sure the entire football world would have been cheering as one when Madge popped that through. It was a bit of a picnic after that. They all got in on the act. Cameron Zurhaar kicked his 3rd. Aaron Hall chipped in with a 2nd. Jed Anderson, who was really strong around the clinches and in the middle today, he kicked one. And Davies-Uniacke got his 2nd too. So a procession of North Melbourne goal kickers in the end 19 goals. Like I said, the highest score registered by any team this season, and a catalogue of goal kickers for them. I think 11 all up. In fact, let's have a look at the final scores now in detail. North 4 goals to zip in the opening term. That little burst just before the halftime siren, giving them a 5 goals plus lead at halftime. Third quarter, pretty even Stevens, but the floodgates certainly opened at the end with 7 goals to 1 in the final term. Goal kickers and best, Zurha, pretty good up forward again for the Roos. He finished with 3. 5 players shared 2 goals, or each kicked 2 goals. Higgins, Pittard, Marnie, Larkey and Hall. For the Crows, their only multiple goal kicker, Shane McAdam. Best players, I thought Todd Goldstein, again, outstanding in the ruck. Created a lot around the ground, wasn't just his taps to advantage. Admittedly, not necessarily up against much inexperienced Riley O'Brien and a couple of other Crows players having to fill the breach. So he certainly had tougher opponents, but you can only play against who's served up to you, and Toddy was terrific this afternoon. I thought another great player for the Roos actually was Luke McDonald off half-back. He just knocked up getting kicks. The Crows didn't want to seem to try to curb his run off half-back, and he ended up with 30-plus disposals. Great game from him. Jed Anderson, terrific in the middle all day. Sean Higgins, classy as usual. Zurha and Hall, I've already mentioned. They'll be particularly pleased with Aaron Hall's game. And Trent Dumont, a pretty steady performer for the Roos most of the time these days. For the beleaguered Crows, well, I said Paul Seedsman and Rory Laird certainly gave their all. Matt Crouch picked up his usual swag of touches. Again, some query about the effectiveness of those touches, and that certainly is a bit of a sore point for them. I thought Tom Lynch tried pretty hard, and McAdam bobbed up with a couple of goals. But look, it's clearly going to be a long season for Adelaide. They're trying, they just don't have the cattle, unfortunately, and the young players in that side don't have the fitness levels or strength to be able to match it with senior opposition for a whole 4 quarters. So it's going to be a long season for them. It's going to take a remarkable rally for them to avoid their first ever wooden spoon. North, they'll just be happy to get the win after 6 losses on end. But a good pointer today that they can play some good footy too, and probably underlining Reece Shaw's selection gambit in dropping both Ben Brown and Jared Pollock, key players, but the Roos handled themselves very well indeed today without both of them. So it'd be interesting to see if they can force their way back into the lineup for North Melbourne's next game. That is another Footyology Match Dispatch. We'll see you later.